I just thought to add some other terms that we need to cover that we haven't covered yet in Scrum and Agile that you might hear. So you have something like epic. Epics are basically large and high-level user stories that are too big to fit into a single sprint. What I mean by that is this. So I mentioned that user stories are usually features, but it's very possible that a feature is so large that it can contain multiple user stories. That's where epics come into play. So when you group user stories to form like a particular feature, then they're called epics. We have acceptance criteria. I mentioned that acceptance criteria are set of conditions that a product or a feature must meet to be considered complete. So this is what you tell, like maybe your quality assurance person, okay, if this thing that this developer has built does not pass these conditions, then it cannot be considered done. That's what acceptance criteria is. Then we have definition of done. Definition of done is a shared understanding among everybody that say, okay, this is the thing that we need to do for this work to be completed, for this user story to be considered completed. Definition of done. You share with your stakeholders, your development team. Everybody's aware that, okay, for this product to be said to be done, this is our definition of task. There's something also called velocity. Velocity is a measure of how much work a team can complete in a single sprint. It helps the team plan how much work they can take on a future sprint. So when you're calculating your velocity, you look at the things that like your developers have done in the previous sprint and take a look at it. You can easily now tell that, okay, based on what these guys have done in the previous sprint, or they can take on this amount of work in the next sprint. That's what velocity does for you. Then you have your Burndown chart. The Burndown chart is a visual representation of the amount of work that is left for you to do in a sprint. What I mean by that is once you are in a sprint and then you start working, the Burndown chart basically shows you that, okay, based on what you have in this sprint, this is what you have left. It allows you to track the progress of what you've done, and it allows you to know that, oh, do I need to work faster to be able to finish up in this sprint? That's what the Burndown chart does for the team. Then the Scrum board is basically where you put together all the work that you need to do, your backlog, your sprint backlog, and the progress of your work. It allows you to move your tasks from to do to in progress, then to done or maybe blocked. It allows you to basically organize your work very well. So there are a lot of tools that have the Scrum board feature. We have Jira, we have Azure board, and so on. Then you have your sprint goal. The sprint goal is a statement or a concise statement that defines the objective of a sprint and guides the work of a team. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is the story point. The story point is the measure of the relative size or complexity of user story or a feature, and it is used for estimation and planning purposes. So your story point is you assigning a particular complexity to, like, okay, saying that, oh, this task is large, it's going to take me 5 hours. So people use let's say story point to estimate, some people use hours to estimate. So it basically measures how hard a task is or how much time it will take for a developer or someone on your team to complete a task or a user story. That's what story point does for you. So I hope you have a basic understanding of some of the other terms that are present in the Agile framework.